Hi, I'm Yellow Sleeves, and recently I bought the Sire H7V and I made a video about unboxing it and first impressions that you can find up here. This video today though, I don't think is going to come as a big surprise to whoever saw the first video, because if anything, I wasn't all that happy with the guitar as I was unboxing it and trying it out. Long story short though, the guitar came with a fair few flaws that ultimately made me want to send it back. Now don't get me wrong, I really liked the guitar and I thought it had a lot of qualities. It played really well and it sat in my lap really well and it sounded really good, and it did all the things that you would expect a workhorse guitar do quite well, so I can't really fault it for that. The P90s especially, they really surprised me with the clean tones. They were very clear and bell-like and chimey, and they did high gain tones really well as well. If you'll watch the unboxing video, you'll see me pretty disappointed with the finish on the guitar. It came with some pretty deep and noticeable file marks on the fretboard. The fretboard was pretty dry and it had this sort of a grayish milky tinge on it, which I didn't expect an ebony fretboard to have. It came with some splotches of paint on the back of the neck, but also in the burst. There were a few rogue splatters of paint here and there. The F-holes were a little bit iffy. The binding on them had some glue marks that they did wipe off, but shouldn't really have been there in first place. And overall, the quality control on the finish on the guitar was just not that great. And I mean, yeah, these are all cosmetic issues that didn't affect the playability or the sound, but at the end of the day, I saved up money for a few months to buy this guitar and treat myself to this guitar, and it came with all of these little niggles that I didn't feel should be on a brand new guitar. To be honest, if those would have been the only issues, I think I would have kept the guitar. I only probably am going to use it in my little home studio, and I'm not going to take it out to gig, and the cosmetics don't really hugely matter because you can't see them on a recording, right? But the thing is, the next day, when I picked up the guitar and I started playing it again, it started making this sort of rattling kind of ping sort of sound when I was digging into the strings a little bit harder. It was mostly audible acoustically, but the pickups were picking that as well, and you could hear it in recordings too, even though it was faint, but it was there. Now I tried doing some troubleshooting. I checked the saddles, I checked the pick guard, I checked the pickups, I tried everything that could have rattled, all the little screws and all the little nuts and bolts, and made sure that everything was adequately tightened and nothing was rattling, and I just couldn't figure out where it was coming from and how to stop it. I should note that I had plenty of troubleshooting suggestions and just general help from Anderton's customer support. This video isn't sponsored, but they have been very kind and patient and answered to all of my questions and got back to me pretty quickly, so I figured I should be giving credit where credit is due. Anyway, at this point I decided that I couldn't be bothered trying to continue locating the source of that noise, and between that and also all of the different cosmetic issues that the guitar came with, I figured I'm just going to return it. However, because I was really happy with the way the guitar felt and the way it played and the way it sounded, I figured that rather than a refund, I should instead just get a replacement. So right here, we have my Sire H7V in a vintage sunburst, V2 second of its name, whatever. This is the brand new one. So the question is this guitar better than the previous one? Well, cosmetically, yes. There weren't any rogue stains anywhere, and definitely there were no scratches on the fretboard, which is a big plus. The scarf joint is quite a bit neater, the wood is matched better. It's not something I care about too much, but hey. The flame top is quite a bit more visible on this guitar. On the previous guitar, it was advertised as it has a flame top, and the flame top was a little bit subdued. So on this one, I felt that the flame top was a little bit more on par with what sort of promotional material you can see online for this guitar. The ebony was darker this time around. It didn't have that sort of gray, milky tinge that the first guitar had. And since then, I did oil the neck, and you might be able to see on camera, but it is quite nice and dark. Okay, let's leave the cosmetics aside. What about the more functional aspects of the guitar? Well, as you might expect, the pickups sound identical to the previous pickups, which in my book is a plus. I really liked the P90s on the previous guitar, really like the P90s on this guitar. The electronics are okay. The pots don't scratch, which is good. The switch, however, sometimes loses contact when I switch to the bridge pickup, so that's kind of common for these types of switches, especially some of the cheaper ones. A little bit of contact cleaner does the job. That's something that happened on my Epiphone 339 as well, so it's a pretty easy fix. It's a bit annoying that I need to do it, but hey, it's fine. The guitar feels pretty much the same as the previous one did. I felt the previous one was balanced a little bit differently. Weight-wise, they're kind of the same, but it felt like the previous one was sitting in my lap a little bit nicer. So maybe the center block is slightly differently weighted on this one compared to the previous one, but I mean, I'm splitting hairs right now anyway. The biggest problem with this guitar is that it has a proud fret. Fret number 7 over here is tall, and it's not super tall, but it is impactful. Because of the tall fret, I needed to raise the action a little bit higher than what I'd normally like, and it's fine, it's still playable, but this fret will need addressed because it is a bit of a playability issue and it buzzes, especially on the G string, which is very annoying. It doesn't come through the pickups all that much, but it is audible, and let's be honest, this is where the A minor pentatonic is, and this is where a lot of playing happens, am I right? So this needs to get addressed. If you are thinking of getting one of these, still on the playability side, just be aware that the neck on both this one and the previous one was dead straight, and it didn't have any relief in it. So I gave it a smidge of relief, which is something you might need to do if you get one of these, assuming you're comfortable enough with changing the settings on your truss rod, which I know some folks aren't. So will I be keeping this guitar? And the answer is yes. It's a very nice guitar, it feels very good to play, it sounds good, and it sounds different from all the other guitars I have. Yeah, I will need to correct this one fret, and I might be taking it to a guitar tech to get a professional setup as well, but in the grand scheme of things, I think it's still a good guitar. You might be thinking, was replacing it worth it? And I'm kind of leaning towards yes. I think I'm a little bit more confident with doing this one fret than I would have been with sanding the neck. I think masking everything and getting everything nice and tidy and clean and doing all of that would have been more work, more faff than doing this one fret, and I couldn't figure out where the ping was coming from, and that was just driving me nuts a lot more than the cosmetic issues. So at least this one doesn't ring out, apart from the fret buzz that I get because of the tall fret. So has this whole journey changed my opinion of Sire in any way? These are two guitars that are both worth brand new over 500 pounds, and they both came with their flaws and their issues, both cosmetic and functional. It's definitely not an ideal situation, and I do know, and I've been made aware in some of the comments on my previous video, that these types of flaws and these types of issues happen with a lot more expensive guitars as well, and from a lot more prestigious brands as well. Now, I'm not trying to make any excuses for Sire in any way. The reality of the matter is that the quality control on these instruments could have and should have been better. The thing is, this is my fourth instrument from Sire, and bar one, they all came with their little issues and their little quirks, or they developed issues over time. luckily while the instrument was still in its warranty period. But I'll be making a separate video to talk you through all of those little bits and pieces in a lot more detail. All in all, my little mishap didn't put me off the brand. Sire are currently making some of the best affordable instruments on the market, and they punch way above their weight. However, at the same time, there is quite a bit of hype in reviews and in videos on the internet about Sire as a brand, and that's just something I would caution you a little bit. If you are going into the brand for the first time and you've never bought any of their instruments and all the reviews are like, these guitars are amazing. Yes, they are very good guitars, but they are still affordable guitars and corners are being cut. And the corners are being cut to save on cost, and that translates to how much we pay for them as consumers. So because of the corner cutting, the lower cost, there are going to be inconsistencies and there are going to be flaws. And if you don't take anything else from this video, assuming you've made it this far, just expect there to be potentially some things you might need to do with your instrument, whether it's cleaning off a little bit of glue, or there being a couple of stains you might to get rid of, or there being some file marks you might to get rid of, there being a fret you might need to polish, these sort of things. But these are the types of things that you would do on a Sire. These are the types of things that you would probably do on a Harley Benton. These are the types of things that you would do on an Epiphone. If you're buying guitars in this kind of a price range, likely there are going to be these types of issues that you're going to have to deal with, and potentially you might need to return the instrument if it just doesn't live up to your expectations. Something to bear in mind though is, yes, I have 4 Sire instruments, and yes, I have an opinion. I'm a dude with a camera on the internet, of course I have an opinion, but I've never played any Sire instruments over 1,000 pounds. I tried one of their fancier basses once for like 10 minutes and yeah, it was great, but it just wasn't enough time for me to form a proper opinion on it. So I can't really say how good their higher end, their more premium instruments are. But in their sub 1,000 pound guitars, I know that there are inconsistencies and I know there are flaws. Take everything I've said with a pinch of salt, but be aware there is a bit of a pattern there. Would I buy another Sire instrument after all this? Absolutely, yes. The thing is, I ran out of space, my guitar rack is full, and I would really like a Yamaha Revstar, but I really like my Sire instruments. They play great, they feel great, they are very competitive, and the instruments are good, flaws and all. So yeah, that's pretty much all my thoughts on the matter. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If you're looking to buy your very first guitar, I made this video where I talk about 5 mistakes you should avoid when buying your very first electric guitar, but to be fair, you probably already have an electric guitar. But if you don't, right, that's it for today. I'm gonna be playing you out. This is going to be the second solo on my track Try, which is available to stream everywhere. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, have a good one.
I hope you'll be strong and nothing will go wrong with running.